Hello, hello. So glad that you stopped by. Bellflowers here from Bellflowers Clinic and Wise Woman Essentials. Look, if you're wondering the most prevalent signs of the fact that you may be living with a narcissist, then stick around because I'm going to share them with you. And hopefully, you'll learn a little bit more about yourself and a little bit more about the person that you are in an intimate relationship with. I want to start by saying you don't experience all of these things, but I certainly did. And so that's why I am sharing these with you now, because I think it's super important that you know what the warning signs are so that you can protect yourself if you choose to stay with the person in your life that is toxic, or you can choose how to exit. And so, no matter what you choose, just remember it's your choice. If you want to stay in the relationship as it is, that's also your choice. Or if you want to stay in the relationship and make drastic, vast changes, then that will lead you to a much more empowered life. So, let's start with the number one that I consider sign that you are living with a narcissist: confusion. You will feel so confused all the time. And I'm not just talking about a little bit of confusion. I'm talking about you feel like your mind is bending and breaking and twisting itself up into 1,000 knots that can never be undone. The confusion that comes with a narcissist is real and it is traumatizing, and it can actually bring you to your knees. So if you find yourself in one conversation, everything's fine, and then seconds later, everything's not fine. If you feel like the energy has been sucked out of you or out of the room and you don't know what happened, that kind of confusion is a really good indicator that you are with a narcissist. So let's not get, before I go on, let's not get bogged down with clinical terms. So we're not saying someone has narcissistic personality disorder, although I certainly know what that's like to live with. What I am saying is you can have narcissistic tendencies really strong on the narcissism scale, and they can be anything from just an overinflated ego and sense of self, or they can be malignant. So be careful. If you are with someone who you perceive to be narcissistic, then you need to get armored, you need to get protected, and you need to make some huge changes. So confusion is the number one thing. And even as I'm talking about this, I find it hard to even describe what I went through with confusion. But that was the biggest thing. I couldn't think properly anymore. And for someone who is really good at finding her own emotions and being able to speak about them and connecting to them, to get to the point where I didn't know where my head was at, I wonder if that's happening for you. So if it is, I need you to get some help straight away. The next thing is you'll probably feel really anxious. So you might not be sleeping anymore. Actually, that's point number 3. So we'll get to that in a second because that's a whole unicorn of itself. But the anxiety might come in heart palpitations. It might come in just a worried sensation all the time. You might find that you're second guessing yourself as well, and you're not really feeling strong and confident within yourself. If you are previously really confident and you are not an anxious person and you suddenly started to become one in this relationship, I don't know, are they narcissist? Possibly. Is it toxic? Definitely. Is it an area for you to work on? 100%. So we can't always blame the other person in the relationship. In fact, we never really can. We can say, I don't like their behavior. It makes me feel like this, so I'm going to take radical personal responsibility for it. So I want you to keep that in mind. If you're starting to feel anxious and you're blaming it on the other person, you need to start thinking about what you're anxious about. What is it that your internal navigation system, your wise woman or wise man that I call it, what is that? What is it trying to tell you? How is it trying to show up for you? All right, let's go to number 3. You're not sleeping anymore. So I went from someone who could sleep on a barbed wire fence to not being able to sleep at all, tossing and turning, get up through the night, watch TV, can't do anything. You may even find that your partner starts to turn their back to you. That was something that was really full on in the last stages of my relationship, where their back was turned and they no longer wanted anything to do with me. And so what I realized was, and maybe you're realizing that too, their patterns have changed as well. So you may be going through the discard phase. I'll get into the phases in another video. But if you're noticing that you're not sleeping, and if you're noticing that you're pretending to be asleep when they come to bed, or if you're noticing that you race to bed before them so that you're asleep so they won't annoy you, There's something going on there. You need to have a look at it. Does it necessarily mean that they're a narcissist? No. But it does mean that there's a toxicity going on within your relationship that needs addressing. And finally, number 4, do you find that you're walking on eggshells and you're really worried about what you might say that might set them off? This is a sign that there's some toxicity in your relationship. Are they a narcissist? No, but walking on eggshells around a narcissist is a really, really common experience. So if you're confused, if you're anxious, if you're not sleeping and you have to walk on eggshells because you don't want to set them off, chances are they've got narcissistic traits and you're trying to manage that so that you feel safe. So if you're worried that you're not feeling safe all the time, you might want to have a look at your nervous system. So you'll know if your nervous system is on all the time. You'll feel like you're wired at 11 o'clock at night and you can't go to sleep. You'll feel like if someone jump scares you, you won't like it at all. It's not funny. You can't laugh. It sends a terrible feeling through your whole body. And finally, number 5, this is a pretty good indicator, in my opinion, that you're living with someone who's toxic when you believe that it's all your fault. When you believe that you're not a very good person, when you believe that you're not a nice person, when you believe that everyone would be better off if you weren't around. If you get to this point, I need you to get some help because it is really telling. And many people with high narcissistic traits make the people that they live with feel like this. And I don't want to say victim because you don't want to go into a victim and perpetrator dynamic because then you're kind of blaming the other person. But it really is something that a lot of people who live with a narcissist have felt. They've felt like it's all their fault, something's terribly wrong with them, and that they're the one that needs to do all the work. And you know what? We do need to do the work when we've been in a relationship with a narcissist. It's really helping to highlight something within us that needs to be addressed. However, that's not this video. This video is helping you to understand that if you're confused, if you're anxious, if you're not sleeping well, if you're always walking on eggshells, and if you believe that really you are the problem, I need you to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror and decide whether that's actually true and decide whether you are worth more than that. So if you need some help working with that narcissist in your life, I want you to get in touch. Drop a comment below, subscribe, and get involved. Start to share the conversation because it can happen to any of us. And being in a narcissistic relationship could be the best thing that ever happened to you because you will learn so much about yourself and you will be able to grow and become a much stronger, empowered version of yourself. However, if you are nowhere near that, get in touch. Let's talk.